it was on MySpace,
Yeah.
that record, for a minute before it ended up being a real record. And then Skinny Love became like an actual hit song.
Yeah.
Ushering in the new sound of what's going to be popular rock music in a way.
Yeah,
of,
definitely.
You know, like
Definitely
acoustic
right
rock.
on the zeitgeist for that.
And the look, you know, I feel like in a way, a lot of what him and his contemporaries, because, you know, Sufjan was already there, but he didn't, it was a different look and a different vibe. It was like,
for sure.
I'm a regular guy, I'm not shaven, I'm wearing this hat, you know, vibe, like, which was very different at the time, because rock and roll was still pop centric as far as what people were hearing, you know. And Radiohead was, they were in their own lane.
Yeah.
So Sounds of the South, that was at Duke University, and it was like a collection of music from the Alan Lomax Sounds of the South box set, and then Matt and Brad wrote arrangements for the infill of the music for that ensemble, and we played it at Duke University once.
Yeah,
How many times did we play that show?
2 nights. At least 2 nights.
At least 2 times, right? I think it may have been 3 times we played the show.
I think it might have been 3 nights. Yeah. Yeah.
We eventually played it again in Australia years later. But that was kind of the first time that I had any experience working on like a pop, pop's not the right word, but big stage, right?
Yeah,
Here's
it was
an
a bigger
established artist. Yeah. You know, I'm going to back up and like give shout outs to Gallery 5 and Nancy Raygun and a lot of those venues, because those bands from Durham in New York and Richmond were all like traveling that little circuit together, and like lots of bands kind of linked up and made friends like through those venues. So it's very important to have like bands that come through town that aren't famous, but or like on their way or whatever, just have a fan base that isn't from your city, you know, in a different lane. So that was really cool. And that's when I met Justin, and one of y'all wrote that duet that I did with him. And then that's how it ended up. I'd put one finger in the air like a basketball player. Yes, and then he had me on his project from there. And then that was kind of like where we weren't hanging out anymore. Like, it was like,
yeah, that was
time
funny,
stretch,
man,
yeah.
Because it's like I was saying earlier, like you don't know when you're in it, and you don't know when it's done.
No,
you know what I mean. Like that was at the Sounds of the South was both like the best, highest moment for Fight the Big Bull, and also basically the end of it.
In the end, yeah.
Just practically, like
large ensembles.
Yeah. I mean, just it wasn't. To me, there was never any. It was a combination of Reggie left, which was super exciting, and that was a super positive. Like, that was it. I mean, Reggie was the first person from the scene that like did it for real.
Right.
Like, went on tour, got on the bus, got paid, like did it, and that was big time. I think for everyone to see that could happen, and there wasn't a glass ceiling on it. And like it just was a matter of like grinding and like figuring it out, and I mean it's a matter of a lot of things, but like but it happened, and it happened to one of us, and like that was really exciting, and then that was I had like at Sounds of the South, I talked to Sarah Patrick Heathcott, who ran this label called Home Tapes, which was Megafon's label, was kind of there at the event, kind of like show running, basically, like producing it to some degree. She was running around doing a lot of stuff. But I talked to her about, I said, I'm going to start a label. What do I need to know? And that's when that Spacebomb thing really kicked off. And basically that began my next life of trying to get Spacebomb off the ground. And
that was a crazy little time right there, because it fractured everything. It fractured friendships up.
Yeah.
It fractured up like, what are we going to do? You know, our time was all fucked up. And then, you know, that manifested into like, well, we can't play. Well, should we play? How come we're not playing? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And then like people are mad at me, and I'm mad at every other people. And it's like, that's like,
it's so messy.
I mean, and musicians are fucking sensitive, and we're dumb also. Dumb 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
I'm chalking some of it up to dumb.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, I'll shoulder a lot of that.
Yeah, me too.
For sure, man. Like, you know, and like, Reggie's gone. Sounds of the South was great though, man. I mean, that was a incredible.
That was a life-changing moment.
Yeah, life-changing, musically, professionally, just really special. And all those people that were involved in that are in different places now. It's wild to like look back on it. That was a really special. I mean, just incredible, just moment of, my musical experience. I'm sure yours too. But.
Yeah. And also the other band I feel like was really influential to what we were doing at the time was the Great White Jenkins. It's like you're like here's the vocal version with like some horns, right?
Yeah, that was like a rock band that sort of like a psych rock band that I was in with my buddy Andy Jenkins, and we did
Spacebomb, another Space Cateer.
Yeah, Spaceketeer. That's good. And we did that, and Benson and Cameron, who were in Fight the Big. I'm not Cameron, actually. Sorry, Cameron. Benson, who was in that with me, was also in Fight the Big Bull, and that was kind of like the vote. And we would have horn arrangements and stuff too. Right. So that was sort of like a proto, like singer plus larger ensemble kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Nate Matthews, shout out.
Yeah, Nate Matthews, Nate's Bagels.
Nate's Bagels, we'll get some of them shits, boy. So that kind of took it in a different direction. And also Cameron and Scott Clark had another band, another psychedelic band that was a little different, but coming out of the same pocket a little bit.
Yeah.
So there was, so at one point, all of us were legit playing shows with 8 bands in different ways, did some collabo shows. We did a lot of shows together.
Yep.
And then Spacebomb. Okay. So we got to the point of like Matt's got mad time on his hands, and like let's just figure out this label thing.
Spacebomb was like a real deal shot at like creating a music business. Was like I felt like the idea. It seems like like a really simple idea now, and maybe it was then, but maybe that's why it works. It's just like the idea of a house band where you invited people to come in. And you produced the records for them, and then you released it. And to me, I felt like I had a voice or a growing voice as a producer / arranger that I wanted to exercise. And I felt like that's where I was going to land. If I was going to land anywhere, was kind of doing that kind of thing, which is sort of ostensibly what I was doing with Fight the Big Bull. And that's
right. I don't know if any of you guys probably don't know, but Matt can play the guitar, for what I understand, but he just bailed on it.
I play with live.
Yeah, I know.
And
I kind of did the same thing with trombone sometimes.
And then, it was just kind of like this is an idea, and it felt like really simple and really direct, and felt like I had a lot of outlets that like it could work like as a record label, it could work as a production company. Basically, what we're doing now, it could work like. It could work on the publishing side of things. Like that, there were lots of ways that it could generate. It was almost like Patchwork Collective meets Fight the Big Bull. It was kind of just the next thing. It was very organized. I thought of it as very organized.
It's difficult,
Yeah. It wasn't as nearly as organized as I thought of it as. But that was the intention, was for it to be kind of, just like a more
professional.
Yeah, maybe professional. I don't really know, but just a more like I knew that it was going to be kind of a big shot. Like it was like okay, I'm basically serious. I was really serious about it, and I wanted it to work, and I felt like it had legs. Like I felt like the idea, similar to Patrick and similar to Fight the Big Bull. I felt like the idea kind of went on its own. Anytime I talked about it with somebody or like. I kind of got thinking about it. It was like an idea that worked. It just seemed like it worked. But then, really, the rubber hit the road when it was like, okay, well, let's figure out who's going to be the Fight Spacebomb. Who's going to do it first? Because basically, we were asking people, like, hey, come in, let us produce your record, engineer your record, promote your record, sell your record, sign you to a record deal. And it was just too much for anyone to agree to, which was silly for me at the time, but makes a lot of sense in retrospect.
Right, because it's like they don't know.
They don't know what the fuck.
What are you like? Yeah. You don't have a resume of any kind.
I didn't have. All I could point to was sort of like an avant-garde big band that was sort of batting or punching above its weight a little bit. But like,
I got this big band.
Yeah, but like that's kind of all I had. And so I was like, well, I'll just make a record of my own as kind of like a business card for Spacebomb. And I was like, and I wanted to do that. It wasn't totally pragmatic, but I did want to do that, but it wasn't because I thought of myself as a singer-songwriter or as like a frontman or anything like that. It was like, I feel like just the simple like rhythm section plus arrangements plus singer, like let's just see what happens. And we did it, and it, like it went way.
This is beginner.
Yeah, this is beginner. This is my first record, and it went way better. It
went great.
It went great. It went great, and it was completely completely life changing for me. It just in practical terms, in terms of what I did. I mean, I went from teaching 10 lessons every day to touring.
Putting on suits and shit.
Like
getting braids.
Yeah, like
walking around in the James River in a white suit.
Yeah, doing weird shit. I don't know what the fuck. And
it was fine. It was hot at the time.
Yeah, and that was that. Like it just went really good. It was great for Spacebomb. Great for me.
Let me stop you for a second. Making a label is like extremely difficult. You want to just give like the most basic skeleton of like what that looks like. You're talking about you need some place to record first. Yeah. You need some money, as either is a loan or the parents or whatever it is, and you need some people willing to do it for nothing for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. We had all of those things. We had. Yeah, it takes a lot, man. And I think we got, we had a studio in my attic on Libby, which was where Pinson and Jesse and I lived, and that house kind of has its own story and was a really special place, and just recorded a lot of music there and partied a lot there. It was really great. But there was an upstairs attic, this kind of finished attic that we recorded Beginner in, along with did some of the arrangements at Minimum Wage. Shout out to Lance. And that was the spot we kind of made home. My partner Rawls was, so I look back on it, he gave us a little bit of money, but it was a little bit of money at the time. It was a few $1,000s, and at the time I thought it was just like...
Flipped it.
Yeah, I was like, man, this is the shit. We have a few $1,000, and like... That was it, man. That's what we started with, and then we Sarah Paget from Home Tapes came alongside and sort of helped us with a lot of the logistics in terms of distribution and just the kind of ins and outs of hiring a publicist and especially once the record kind of flipped into like international zone, like just navigating some of that. And then you got your pressing of vinyl and all the kind of deadlines to meet. I mean, it's an administrative shit show for sure. Yeah. And that is exactly what it was. I mean, Beginner for Spacebomb was, I mean, our heads were not above water.
How could it be?
We were way, way below water, holding our breath, trying to do the best we could and just make it out, honestly, man. I mean, it's funny. Beginner totally changed my life. I would say for sure, I would tell anybody that was the hardest year of my life. Right. Maybe the worst year of my life. Just sure. Unbelievably difficult to navigate from, like, just having that happen and how that separates you from your community in a way. But you're really excited about it at the same time and sort of feeling like that duality, and also just trying from a business, I wasn't only trying to launch like an artist career, it was like trying to pull up the whole record label at the same time. Right. and just trying to get that going. And then there was a whole...
But you got to work the record though.
Yeah, I got to work the record. I do that. And then we ended up, for very practical reasons, signing my artist career basically to Domino Records, which is a bunch of music business shit that's probably too complicated to talk about here, but it was worthwhile and needed to happen. I
don't know, man. This is nerd shit, man. let me get a little remedial version of what does it look like to sign as a thing, as your own thing.
Yeah, well, basically what happened, I mean, this is the same thing, not to compare myself to Elvis by any stretch, but it's the same thing that happens with Elvis' son, is it happens to a lot of small